So endurance rides, or well, rides in your endurance training zone is really what I'm talking about here. And it's important to think about how things are working. So you basically, when you're doing any training ride, your body is taking fuel, either stored fuel or fuel that you ingest, either through your drinks or your or food that you eat, and then it's using that fuel to produce motion in your muscles and power you forwards. So in any training that you do or any training that you plan, it's better to think of it in that way, in the fact that you're training your body to become more efficient at using fuel that it's either got stored in its system or that you're taking in to produce power, and also to delay the onset of fatigue. So there are 3 types of rides that I'm talking about that are in your endurance training zone. And by your endurance training zone, I mean your training zones 1 and 2. So they might be easy rides and what some people sometimes call recovery rides. There are short rides which tend to be between your harder training sessions. And these rides are carried out with some fatigue. Obviously, if they're between hard sessions, you've done a hard session, you're tired, and there's some fatigue in your muscles and in your body. And as a consequence, your body is using fuel from a depleted state. So it's not just an isolated training session. It's important to think about the fact that you've done something and your body's depleted of certain types of energy. Your carbohydrate stores, your glycogen stores in your muscles and perhaps in your liver are also depleted. And as a consequence, your body's using fuel differently to the way it might do if it was fully rested. The second type of endurance training I'm talking about is your longer training sessions that you might do at the weekend, but they're not race specific. They're designed to improve your efficiency in the way you use fuel. It might be that you're training to use your stored energy. It might be that you're training yourself to improve the way you use ingested carbohydrates, but they're not pushing your body to the limit. And sometimes these are done in a fatigued condition. In fact, quite often they are. And the third type of training is the longer endurance event type practice. So if you're training for ultra endurance events where you want to ride as fast as you can for as far as you can, you're trying to push either the amount of time that you can ride for at a given pace, or you're trying to improve the pace that you can ride for a given duration. So the first 2 short rides and long rides where you might be carrying some fatigue, and they're training sessions to improve your efficiency, and the event practice where you're actually training to improve your ability to perform in an event. As you probably know, we use a combination of fat and carbohydrates to power us, to fuel us as we ride or run or take part in any endurance sport. And as we go faster, we use more carbohydrates and less fat. If you ingest carbohydrates early in a training session, you'll use more carbohydrates. Your body preferentially uses carbohydrates if you start by ingesting carbohydrates. So you can manipulate the way your body's using fuel by how you fuel yourself with the food that you take in during the training session. And as you do more endurance training, particularly if you do it without ingesting carbohydrates, you get better at burning fat. You burn a higher proportion of fat at any given power output. And as a consequence, you'll spare the glycogen reserves, and obviously glycogen reserves are finite and fat reserves are basically infinite. So the more fat you can use at any given power or pace, the better for your endurance performance. As you get better at using fat, though, you get worse at using carbohydrates. So if you want to use carbohydrates in an event, if you want to have gels and bars and all that sort of thing, which will improve your performance, well, at least indications are that it should improve your performance from current research, you need to train yourself to be able to use carbs again. So if you've gone through a period of time where you're training yourself to use fat and improving your fat metabolism, you need to go through a period of time where you do some event practice to make sure your stomach can absorb the carbohydrates and not get upset, and you can efficiently use the ingested food as well as using your fat. Taking this a step further, you could have a periodization strategy whereby you improve your fat metabolism for a period of time, and then as you get closer to your event, then you could use more carbs and get yourself event prepared. I don't tend to subscribe to this approach, because as you're training yourself to use fat, you have to go slower, and therefore you're compromising your performance at higher intensities, and therefore you're not training that ability to work hard. It's going to compromise your ability to improve your FTP, your pace at threshold, and as a consequence, you're compromising certain fitness gains in the search for an improved fat metabolism. And if you can use carbohydrates during your event, if you can train yourself to use ingested food, then it's got to be questionable whether there's a benefit. I think for very long events, there may be a benefit, and it may be worth exploring. So if you're interested in doing that, then I certainly encourage you to try it out and see what happens. And if you do, then I'd really be interested in finding out how you get on. But for my general approach, even for bike packers who are training for events that last a week or more, I tend to try and optimise the training performance, optimise recovery, and not worry about fat metabolism and let that sort of side of things take care of itself. I hope you find that useful and interesting, and I'd really be interested if you could make some comments and let me know how you have experienced these types of things yourself, whether anything resonates with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.